All righty, welcome back to another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today we're going to be talking a little bit of OU pressers with various coaches, BV, Levy, Chavis, all the other coaches that did their press conferences today. A lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of good stuff. It seemed like the team is really buying in and they're making a lot of good progress and a lot of good momentum going into the fall camp. But before we get into it, I just want to say we appreciate it. We last night, we're recording this Tuesday, so Monday night we had our biggest live stream ever. 600 plus people were in here with JP, Trav, and Parker Thune. That's amazing. We just want to say thanks for tuning in, and anyone that's just found us off of, for the very first time off that live stream, we welcome you here. We're going to bring you a lot of good content. And if you're new here, or if you just, unsure, hit the subscribe button. Over half of you do not subscribe to us. It's free. It's easy. Like the video. Stay around for Brendan's in a video challenge so you can comment on the video, and then throughout the video, obviously make some comments and let us know what you think. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, and Spotify. Everything's linked in the description. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, follow the channel and leave us a review. It helps us out a ton. And then be sure to check out our monthly membership at $4.99. There's a bunch of good perks. We're going to be bringing you good content. Nothing else will change. If you can't do it, no big deal. But if you would like to join, there's a bunch more content, a little more personable, and things like that will kind of cater to what you guys want to know and to help you guys learn. All right, so let's get going. I'm going to start with Brent Venables, just kind of some key takeaways. One was he said that the team's 99% healthy. I think that's a pretty good takeaway. With the 1% he didn't seem to be very concerned about. So it seems like the strength training and all the preparation and the physical therapy has really helped out. And he seems to think over the first few weeks they should all be back and be ready to practice for the first game. So I think that's pretty good. Obviously, you mentioned Schmitty. Brandon, what do you think about some of what Venables had to say? And obviously, Schmitty, it seemed like has a giant impact on this program already, or has had already.
I mean, he definitely does, and it's apparent by listening to Brent Venables. But to your first take on the 99% healthy thing, I mean, that's obviously very, very important. You hate to see injuries before the games even start. Like today, I think it was Tim Patrick in Denver for the Broncos, the receiver, tore his ACL in practice. Like that's the worst thing to happen to any player. Ryan Jensen with the Buccaneers having a similar situation, getting hurt in training camp. So I'm glad we're avoiding any big serious injuries before games even play. I mean, obviously, ideally, you don't have them at all, but it's good to know that we're going into the season healthy. That's a big takeaway. And another thing that I took away from it.
Brandon, you're muted. Yeah, you're muted or something ended up happening. Well, we can't hear you. I'll pass it on to Jose as you're trying to fix it. Go ahead, Jose. Right. What do you think?
Well,
I'm back now.
All right, never mind. All right, go ahead.
No, you're good. Just going back to the blue collar, hardworking team thing, and I think that ties into Jerry Schmidt, the team that they're building, just strong, physical, hardworking. But he also mentioned fast on offense. I mean, it was a good presser, and I'm excited to see the season start.
Yeah. So with Venables, talking about Schmitty still, he mentioned that a lot of the players were hitting PRs over the summer, which I think is important, especially obviously he didn't mention, I don't think he mentioned any specific names from what I recall, but let's just assume it's 70% of the team is hitting PRs. That's probably a good chunk are on the line, then on offense and defense, and then obviously everyone else has that opportunity too. But this program they're actually growing physically. They're being put on the correct meal plan. They're being trained properly to go out on the field and perform at their best abilities. Obviously, Benny Wiley was not the guy to do that for Oklahoma. And then what was interesting to me is he kept mentioning towards the beginning the competition for place kicker. So it sounds like Turk may not be the guy doing everything like Austin Seibert did when he was on the team. So I mean, it sounds like he does have that chance, but right now he's only, he's the leader of special teams. He's the punter. But I guess we're going to either get a new kicker or it'll be Turk doing all kicking duties.
And something, we're talking about last on our live stream on Monday, we talked about what we thought the record was going to be for Oklahoma. And I think the health wise, how healthy they are going in this season is going to be the big factor in this, because, they lose a couple key players, God forbid, in preseason, in fall camp. That could really alter what this season ultimately could be. Another thing that I thought was pretty cool that Venables was talking about the impact that Schmitty was having. It's like when they came in 1999. Well, it quickly after that, 2000, the national championship there, that's not too bad. If that's the same impact that they're having, I'd love to have that same result pretty quick. And it was different because Venables wasn't so fired up. It seemed like he was maybe exhausted. Do you think he was exhausted? Because he's been going all the month of July. I'm not going to say what he said at the Big 12 champion or Big 12 media days, but they've just been going, and it seems like he was exhausted. It's just because I feel like he's putting it all in.
No, that's the exact same thing. I thought. I was like, man, Brent seems a little chill today. Like maybe he didn't have enough coffee or something, but he definitely looked tired. And it's not like that's not a bad thing. I don't think either of us are saying it like, is this too much for him? I just think it's literally the grind of being a head coach in college. That's why not every single coach is, a fit for being a college coach. Some of them stay at the high school level. Some of them move on to pro because the schedule's not as hectic. You're not having to recruit every single day all year. And I think that's probably what's really getting to him. During the season, it might slow down a little bit, but obviously then he's got to focus on the opponents that he's got to face on Saturdays. So, it's probably just a, long day for him, but he definitely did not seem like the fully Energizer bunny that he always is.
He earned it. After that month of July that we put in, we're all okay with it. We're not saying anything bad here.
Mm-mm.
No, for sure not. No, I'd be exhausted. Shoot, I'm exhausted after the live stream.
You brought up a good point. When we were talking about the record of the team on Monday, and I know this is going to go off our schedule here, but who do you guys think would be the most impactful player if you were like the guy that you don't want to see on the injury report going into the season? Obviously, we don't want any, but like there's some guys that can be replaced and some that you're like, this guy is. We need to have him to have a successful, at least beginning stretch of the season.
I think if DG goes down, we're in a world of hurt. Although I'm very confident in Nick Evers, you guys are very high on General Booty, but I think the one guy we can't lose is QB1.
I would tend to agree on that. Someone outside of the box trying to think, outside of the obvious answer. I would think that losing a guy like Danny Stutzman would be really painful because of, how important linebackers are in Venables' scheme. And he was our best linebacker last year. And I feel like he's going to be that much better and that much more important. I think he would really hurt. What do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking like Danny Stutzman on defense and Marvin Mims on offense. Especially after listening to Levy and Roof talk during their presser, and we'll hit more on like their presser here in a bit. But Roof called out something specific about Stutzman during his conference, if I remember correctly, and then Levy was raving about how professional Mims is already and how he works every single day, and he kind of helps lead the offense along with Dylan Gabriel. So I think those two would be the most impactful, even including Dylan Gabriel. Not saying that obviously losing your starting quarterback hurts all the time, but I think we'd be okay with General Booty being as the backup and coming in for a couple games, just sometime in the stretch of the season. I just think that because of Theo's injury history, we'd be relying a lot more on him if Mims were to be hurt, which would potentially put him in a position to get hurt again. And that's the last thing any of us want. And Stutzman, like you mentioned, he might be the best linebacker on this team. And while the depth has gotten better, the guys under him are still very young. Other than Whittier, who could have a good season this year, I know we have David Ogwegbu still there, but I don't know if he can fill in the same role that Stutzman can or has this on this team.
Yeah, Wegbu definitely. He's one of those guys that I feel like he could really benefit from this transition of the staff because he was really the year before he really took that next step. Last year, it seemed like it was kind of a more of a regression. But I think Wegbu, it would be hard to replace Stutzman, that's for sure. Let's talk a little bit about Levy's presser. You know, he did talk about the quarterback situation. I think they brought up, do you feel like Dylan Gabriel can go play in the NFL? And basically, Levy ended up saying, yeah, because of so many various reasons, because of how good of a worker and long, he's able to throw the long ball. He did talk about the backup quarterback and General Booty and Davis Bevel. And it seems like General and Davis are kind of the two, maybe I'm reading this wrong, are the two in the running for the second QB spot. I don't know. I feel like General Booty, just because he's played at the collegiate level, just at a smaller scale, and that's what Levy ended up saying. So I feel like Booty's going to be number 2 on the depth chart. Brandon, are you still feeling that way, or are you not feeling that way, or what do you think?
I have to listen to Levy. I mean, I feel like he is. But going back to your first thing about him being asked, is Dylan Gabriel an NFL caliber quarterback? Anytime you ask somebody on the team questions like that, I think it's the dumbest shit of all time. I get mad about it every single time. It's like when you ask, like, there's a team on the bubble of making the playoff in the NFL, like they need to win and like winning they're in. And they're like, so do you guys, on Sunday, do you think you can win or like, or are you going to try? Like, what's the plan there? Like, of course they're going to say they're going to win. If you ask Jeff Levy, is Dylan Gabriel an NFL caliber quarterback? I think he is. But I mean, he's not going to say no. If one of our 3 dumbasses was the quarterback of the Sooners, God forbid, for some reason, and he was asked, "Are these guys good?" He's going to say yes. Like, he has no choice to say yes. That's just stupid. They're not going to. I hate those questions. They're not going to sit there and dog their own guys. But Dylan Gabriel, that's what I'm saying. No, he's actually horrible. I can't believe that this guy is our quarterback. Like, what kind of dumbass question is that? I get so mad about that stuff. But now I just lost time. How's you go?
The question was, do you think General Booty is QB2 material?
Oh, yes. I think he's QB2. I like Nick Evers a lot. I would like to see Nick Evers QB2, but after listening to Levy, our live stream Monday night with Trav and stuff, they're all confident. I think General Booty probably is QB2. You guys are very high on him. If the General does have to come in, obviously I'm going to pull for him. I just hope it's DG all year. But I do think General Booty is QB2.
He was also asked about Nick Evers, and he mentioned that I think it must have been after the backup quarterback conversation or during that like point in the presser. He talked about like his development and he likes where he's heading. It kind of made me think, is there a possibility and is there a world where Dylan Gabriel will leave this year for the NFL? Next year it'll be the General versus Nick Evers, and then I'm assuming at that point, General Booty would probably either move on, assuming he would be the starting quarterback after Dylan. He would move on. Nick Evers comes in, and then Jackson redshirts. Like that, he would end up being a starter as a redshirt sophomore. Does that make sense?
To be honest with you, I don't see a world where Jackson Arnold is beat out by General Booty.
I said the same thing on one of our
you said by Nick Evers. He's saying I guess
by Jackson Arnold.
That's what I'm saying. With Arnold coming in, I don't know if Evers ever plays for Oklahoma long term. I guess that's what I was wondering. Kind of internal conversations with Brum and stuff. But I don't know that. I love him. I hope he does play. But like with Arnold coming in, I don't know that. I don't know.
If Dylan Gabriel has a good enough year and he goes to the NFL first, second round, whatever, and he leaves, I don't know. My gut tells me that Jackson Arnold is that guy and he could come in and start day one. He's just that good.
That's just super rare in college. You don't really see very many true freshmen, especially quarterbacks play.
I mean, I can think of Bryce Young, Caleb Williams.
He wasn't a true freshman. Bryce Young was not a true freshman. Caleb Williams was, but he was put in a scenario where he had to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like Jackson Arnold is that guy, and he's going to end up being the number I think he's going to be moving up even higher in the top 10 ratings after this season. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't disagree at all. I just think that with how it seems like how fast this offense moves there, and something that Levy kept going on about was like the adjustment period and making sure that you're not just adjusted to being a college athlete and the speed of college football, but being a student at the college level. Like, it's very different from high school, and we all experienced it. You got to manage your own schedule, and yes, they have people there to help these kids out when they're on the team, but they still have to learn how to do it. I don't know. I'm not saying that Jackson isn't good by any means. I think I agree with you. He's going to get ranked a lot higher in this class. He's going to come in, be very well prepared for this offense. I just think that by the time he comes in, or by the time in the scenario that went on in my head, General Booty would be there while Jackson redshirts and Nick Evers backs him up. That gives Nick Evers 2 years of learning the offense, and he would be, obviously he'd be ahead knowing the offense compared to Jackson. Now, can Jackson beat him out? He definitely has a talent to. It would just be, how much do you understand this offense, and is it worth going? Like, is Nick Evers not developing enough understanding of the offense, or is it worth going with slightly more talent but less understanding of the offense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I will say part of the reason why I think Jackson Arnold could start day one is because they run the same offense at his high school. Because his high school coach coached at Baylor with Levy. So it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being too much of a homer and a sunshine pumper, as Trav said on Monday night.
Brum hates Nick Evers. Start that in the comments.
Why do you hate Nick Evers, bro?
Why do you hate Nick Evers? I hate Drake Stoops, apparently, so you hate Nick Evers.
Fucking hate.
I don't hate him. I don't hate him, but again, it's just,
I think something else that was important that Levy mentioned was how much he really likes Eric Gray. And we talked about it in the stream on Monday, but it kind of just solidified what Brum's been saying. Like, Eric Gray is going to be a constant in this offense. It doesn't seem like there's really any negotiation. There's going to be who's going to be RB2 and potentially start taking reps away later on in the season. But Eric Gray's RB1, and it doesn't seem like there's really any competition there for that spot.
I agree with the takeaway. I think Eric Gray definitely is going to start. There's no doubt. He's definitely, the plan for him is to be running back one all season, probably, just by going off what Jeff Levy said and how excited he is to have him in the offense and what he's going to do in the fall and all that kind of stuff. But correct me if I'm wrong, boys. Eric Gray was the penciled-in starter day one under Lincoln Riley and was supposed to be the starter all season under Lincoln Riley's offense, too. I'm pretty sure. And then, obviously, for various reasons, I think he underperformed a little bit, and Kennedy Brooks ended up becoming the guy. But Eric Gray started day one and started I think the first 3 or 4 games before we finally moved to Kennedy Brooks. So is that what I'm getting to? Is that same situation not going to happen with the very capable Javonte Barnes backing him up?
I don't know. I mean, it could. It very well could. But the thing is what Lincoln Riley ran as far as the offensive scheme and running the ball, and this is something I was actually going to bring up with what Levy said. He has emphasized in that conference, the press conference, that they're going to run the ball, they're going to be physical with running the ball, and they're going to run it, efficiently. And I just feel like this difference of kind of more smash mouth kind of type of football is going to benefit Eric Gray. I think he was thinking too much under Riley. I think he was thinking like dancing too much almost. I don't know. I feel like this will be a lot easier for him. He'll, it's point A to point B, find a hole and go. Don't try to hit the home run every time. I don't know. It could happen, but I feel like, and I feel like he'll put it all together. And then he also mentioned Marcus Major. I think the quote was, it's all about consistency for him. And we talked about him on the Monday live stream. He's got a lot of talent, a lot of potential, a lot of hype. Can he put it all together? Maybe. But I don't know. I think Tolly Walker is going to be cutting into his snaps. I think Javonte Barnes is going to get a handful of snaps every game. I just don't know. I think Eric Gray is the clear number one, and they're going to figure out who's number two, and it's going to be a rotation to see who seizes the moment.
And to go back to Brandon's question, I think the situation was also a little different last year because Kennedy Brooks was coming off not playing for a year because he opted out due to COVID. So he needed to get back into playing. and an actual football game. And it was also weird how they made that transition, because it did seem like Garrett Gray was supposed to be running back one and Kennedy Brooks was going to be his backup, but it obviously switched once we started getting into the season a little bit more. And it seemed like the Texas game probably solidified that switch where Kennedy Brooks should have been RB1 the entire time. And like Brum mentioned, like the way that the offense was run last year just didn't even really help any running back. I think it was amazing that Kennedy Brooks did what he did last year in the offense that was put out on the field. But Eric Gray, from Levy's system, Eric Gray should at least have a good year as a running back. Can he have like a year that puts him in a position to be like a round 2 or 3 NFL running back? I don't know, because it's been a while since he's performed at that level, really since he was at Tennessee. But if he can do it, if he can perform like Kennedy Brooks performed, I think he could get drafted in the NFL. But we saw what happened to Kennedy Brooks. He wasn't drafted. He ended up being an undrafted free agent. I think there's just something that he needs to prove. Maybe it needs to be run block or pass blocking. Maybe it needs to be catching out of the backfield, but he's a good running back. He just needs to get the opportunity to. And Levy's offense seems to be right for that.
Yeah. Another thing that Marcus Major does have, he is good at picking up the blitz. He is good at that. So that could be a way that he gets on the field. My last takeaway from Levy, or one cool note, was I didn't realize that Coach B actually recruited Levy. I didn't know that. And maybe some people already did, but I didn't. And then also he talked very highly of LV Bunkley Shelton, the transfer from Arizona State. He seemed to be pretty impressed with him, and it seems like he might have a role and have a chance to contribute this upcoming season. So I think Bunkley Shelton could be someone we see on the field. I'm not penciling him in as a starter, but he could very well be in the rotation and get some looks throughout the year, maybe 20, 30 catches this upcoming season. Another interview that I watched was Coach Chavis, and this was kind of a takeaway from the whole kind of all the coaches. It seems like that they've been really emphasizing mindset and attitude off the field and like molding them. And I think Chavis said his very first requirement is to come in with extreme confidence. I think that's what he said, or something around that. Is just ridiculous confidence and believing in yourself. I think it just listening to what they're doing with these guys, it seems like it's night and day. I mean, as far as their confidence, their mindset, they want to be great. What do you guys think?
My biggest takeaway from Chavis is I guess it's not even a thing that he said. It's Brent Venables was asked about Chavis, because we're all seeing his work on the recruiting trail this month. I mean, he's killing it, helping get guys like Bassick and LeBlanc and these top tier defensive linemen, and still up with some of the guys that are still out there that we're looking at. So we're all seeing his work as a recruiter, and he's killing it. But Brent Venables was like, yeah, but he's also a hell of a coach, and kind of alluding to what you just mentioned, bro. He's kind of just instills that confidence. Brent Venables raved about him for 2 or 3 minutes, just about how he's an all-around football guy. We see the fun stuff. We see the Boomer freaking Sooners videos and the let's go when Colton Bassick commits and all that stuff. But Brent Venables was like, yeah, he's that dude, behind closed doors, stuff that you guys aren't seeing. And that got me excited.
Yeah, Roof was asked the same thing, if I remember correctly, and he pretty much said he's doing everything that he's supposed to do and more to be, a really good coach on the football field and off. I don't know. It seems like Chavis was the right guy. I think coming into, when Venables was hiring all his coaches, the only question marks I had were Chavis, because he was brand new to having this position. Belay, and for him, it wasn't, is he a good coach or is he a good recruiter? It's just, is he going to stick around? And that's still to be determined. And Roof, who Travis actually kind of soothed a little, my mind on him was, is he still good enough to coach at this level? Because he hasn't been a DC for a big program in a while. And it seems like he is. I think this entire staff, like you guys said, it's very different from what we've had over the last 4 or 5 years. And they're going to be very good. It's just how quickly can they put it together. And it seems like they're on the right path here. Roof also mentioned like right now it's going to be they're pretty much going to see how much everyone knows at this point from on the defensive side of the ball, at least, because that's what he knows. It's going to be how much do you guys know the playbook? How quickly can we start implementing more? Because he mentioned they're already looking forward to some games and they're starting to implement like their go-to stuff. And then they're going to implement slowly like things for UTEP, things for game 2 that I can't remember. And then I'm assuming he said that they've looked several games ahead. I just don't know how much they're going to implement and how quickly.
Kent State week 2.
Kent State, yeah.
Kent State, big time game. Another thing that I saw it from K4, the local news station, where they were interviewing Billy Bowman and Jay Valai. They kind of pieced together a couple segments, and Jay Valai basically came in and said that, this defense is sick and tired of being the team, or be the part of the team that's holding this team back from winning a national championship. They're tired of being the butt. Look at that offense, but the defense is not there. And this whole mindset of playing with the chip on their shoulder, I think is huge. And it's that mindset that they've been instilling in them that people have doubted you, maybe rightfully so, with the previous staff, but we're going to coach you and put you in the right spot to succeed. And I think that's what this staff is. And overall, that was my biggest takeaway from this whole cycle of interviews is the mindset, the hunger, the will to be great. It seems to be there, and they're doing it in the weight room and on the field.
I agree. It's a time to segue into our Baylor guy.
Yeah, so we got to talk a little.
I love this.
We got to talk about this a little bit. So Brandon's been dying to talk about this. This is Austin Novosad from Dripping Springs, who has committed twice to Baylor without uncommitting. And we kind of made us think about, who could potentially, if there was someone to decommit from Oklahoma, who could it be? So Brandon, talk about Austin Novosad and let us know what you think about him.
Yeah, the Austin Novosad situation is a fun one to talk about, guys. If you guys don't know the situation, it's pretty funny. So he commits to Baylor. He makes like a committed graphic or whatever. He's like, I'm in. I forget how like the exact timeline. Let's just say for shits and giggles sake, it's a month later. He reopens his commitment to a Final Four. He dropped 4 schools: Baylor, Notre Dame, A&M, or somebody else. And he was like, my recruitment's open. All 4 of these schools are equally in the running. Excited to visit or whatever, do all that stuff. And then all the while, not ever decommitted from Baylor. He's still committed to Baylor going through this whole process. And then yesterday, or a couple hours ago, he drops another 100% committed to Baylor graphic. So the dude, like Brum said, I think he's the first recruit in the history of sports to commit twice to a school without ever decommitting. It's truly a wild situation. Go Austin Novosad.
Just gotta post multiple times on Twitter and to get the retweets and the favorites, right?
The question is, does he reopen his commitment again and be 100% committed for the 3rd time to Baylor without ever decommitting? Can he commit 3 times to Baylor without decommitting once? And also, side note, how glad are you guys that we don't have to deal with that shit with Brent Venables' philosophy and system? Like I do love recruitment, and I love when we get a graphic posted about one of our kids or one of our guys that we land. It's exciting. We get to tweet about it. We get excited. We get to talk about it. But like, I don't want these guys to commit 6 times without it's a lot of stress. I imagine if you're a Baylor fan.
I wish I would have followed his recommitment a little bit better, understanding why he even did it. Like, what was Aranda's mindset? I'm sure that like Baylor insiders probably have a little bit more information on this stuff, but like that entire thing must have been weird for even the schools recruiting him. Like, obviously they're not going to stop recruiting him, but like, what was the motivation behind it? Was it NIL? Was he really just looking for a different opportunity that could have potentially been better? I don't even know. Like, why not decommit? Maybe he didn't want to lose a spot because maybe Aranda's like, if you decommit, you're welcome to come back, but that's not stopping me from getting another quarterback.
And that's fine and stuff, but then like, I don't understand the second commitment post. Was that necessary? I guess is what I mean. That's at the end of the day, Hayes Fawcett had to make 2 graphics for this kid. Like, come on, dude. Like, are you paying him for these, or are you just making him work overtime for no reason here?
It's interesting. So it kind of brought an idea to us, and I will start with saying that I don't really see OU, assuming that they do well this upcoming season, and win a lot of games. I don't see OU really losing a commit, to be honest. But if there is one person that could potentially decommit, we'll kind of go through and kind of give our reasonings why. I know what Brandon's going to pick, and I'm not going to pick his. One that I could see, and this is just, I don't know, is Cade McIntyre. If Malachi Coleman does end up, taking an official visit to Oklahoma and eventually does commit to Oklahoma, and Cade McIntyre starts looking at the depth chart saying, okay, now you got Malachi Coleman in, you've already got Caden Helms, Jason Llewellyn's already there. Do they take another transfer? I'm kind of buried on this depth chart. Maybe I can go play somewhere else. I could see the starting role or a significant role more. I don't necessarily think he's going to leave, but I'm trying to pick someone a little bit different that I could see that he might be interested in going elsewhere because of depth reasons. Brandon, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I want to also begin by saying I don't foresee anybody decommitting with the whole philosophy. I mean, they know how Brent Venables likes to do these processes. He pretty much tells them straight up, like, this is what commitment is, so don't commit unless you're ready. So in theory, they should all be ready, and they should never think about decommitting because that's just what they've been going through this whole process with Oklahoma. That being said, things happen. But the guy that, and I think I even mentioned it when he first committed, is Keon Braun. Like, and the only reason that scares me with Keon is because he committed so quickly. He literally was at camp, got offered like on a weekend camp or something at Oklahoma, committed the same day or the next day or something. It just happened. It happened so fast. And I'm pretty sure he didn't go on any other big visits. He was offered by Alabama. I'm pretty sure he hasn't visited or anything. Just with how quick it all came together, Keon Braun is the one that, I guess for argument's sake, if I had to pick one of this class who would decommit, I would pick Keon Braun.
This is a tough one, and I know this was kind of my idea when I mentioned it before we started recording, but I'm looking at it now, and I guess the only one I could potentially, and it'd be very hard for him to even want to decommit, would be PJ, and it's just because he's getting so many more looks now that he's starting to get noticed more for the talent he has on the edge. But I think Chavis has such a good relationship with all the guys on his squad that it's not going to happen. I think we've all prefaced it. We don't think anyone's going to decommit. It's just kind of like an interesting idea, because what if someone Austin Nova sides us? No, I don't think it's going to happen, but what if,
Clearly, it's a slow day at Two Plane Sports. Not a lot of news. We're doing these hypothetical situations, but I agree. I don't think we're going to lose anybody, but I think those are all three good candidates, I guess, for argument's sake.
The only reason I even thought about it was outside of you bringing up Austin Novosad at the beginning when we were discussing topics, but earlier today, Derek LeBlanc posted his Florida offer, and someone tweeted at us if he was decommitting, and I don't think so. The relationship with Todd Bates seems to be way too strong. He just committed 2 weeks ago. It would seem like too quick of a turnaround to get to that point. And I really don't believe any of these kids would commit unless something terrible were to happen, or they need to stay a little closer to home. I think that'd really be the only scenario where that would come up.
I agree. And, overall, and I think I've already said this before, but OU currently sits with 19 commits. Before the football season even starts, they very well could have 21, 22 commits. This class could end up being 25 to 28 people total. How nice is it going into this fall season? I feel very confident about keeping every single one of these commits and already having a class pretty much, and you're just waiting on a couple more kids. That's it. It's just a handful. And you can turn the page to 2024, hold on to your 23 guys. You can go full court press and really focus on this football season and really kind of start pressing those 24 kids. I feel like the old staff was so focused on trying to recruit and coach football because they didn't have their class pretty much finalized. And recruiting is 24/7, and that's hard to do to coach football at a high level as well. So
yeah, especially whenever you have to look like a year and a half or 2 years, 2 classes ahead. Like if you can't fill out the current one, it's tough to go on to the next one. But yeah, this staff knows what they're doing.
They do. So,
side note, I just saw this on Twitter. Now that we're talking about it, Ricardo LeBlanc just tweeted, "Sooner Nation, calm down." if that eases anybody, I think anybody's nerves there, anybody's. I think it's. I mean, it at the end of the day, it is cool to have all these, whatever offers coming in and stuff, and and it's. I think it's just his social media post, because he also posted his Sooner one and said like, glad or like really love this one, or like something like that, and it's he's just. I think he's just posting his
showing appreciation, like you're saying. Like it's not I'm leaving. It's like it's cool that I got this. It's an accomplishment,
and it's just more of also he's proud of it, but also he knows he can get some interaction out of it, and I don't blame him. I'd do the same if I were him. Why not? I never was in that spot. He's locked in. He's not leaving Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So
no, I think Derek is probably anyone on the defensive line. Those are locks forever.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, obviously, as you guys can tell, this has been somewhat of a slow day. We had a crazy Monday as far as our video and our live stream, and we tried to come up with some topics and some things to talk about. Brandon, any video challenge?
Yes, this one actually came to me in the middle of this video because we had an interesting debate here, an interesting conversation about it, and I'm very curious to see the comment section on this. Is the whole Nick Evers situation with Dylan Gabriel still has 2 years of eligibility. Jackson Arnold obviously coming in as a 5-star that is climbing the ranks really high, and we all see him being really, really good and really even higher up than he currently is slated. So I guess Brome and I kind of said, I don't know if he ever plays with Arnold coming in. Jose brought up a good point for why he could play, just being the more experienced quarterback, being on staff for a couple years by the time Arnold does arrive. So the question is, does Nick Evers play quarterback for Oklahoma? Is he QB1 at any point during his Sooner career?
It's a good question. So you made it this far. We appreciate it. Do the individual challenge. Comment on anything else that you saw throughout the video, anything ridiculous that we said. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're knocking on the door of 5,000. We're like 100 something away. We're trying to get to 5,000 before Brandon goes off to boot camp. Help us out. Do it, for the good old US of A. Support us.
Do it for America.
Do it for America. Subscribe to this channel. I had to throw that one in there. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Apple and Spotify. Everything's linked below. Leave us a review. Check out our membership, $4.99 a month. It gets a lot more. It gets you a lot more Sooners content and more content from us, and a little more driven by you guys. And we will catch you guys on Friday.